Guys, for the lateness of this live stream starting. It started a few minutes later. I was out running errands, and then I realized, wait a minute, I'm supposed to be here at noon. So I hurried home, got everything booted up, and here I am. And today we're going to be talking about how a business plan can help you with your business. Because it was interesting. The other day in the Eccentric Entrepreneurs group, I had a few people share with me that they didn't really have a plan. They didn't have a written business plan, and the reasons really kind of surprised me. I'd never heard these reasons before, and so it was really good research for me, because it was like, oh wow, you don't have these are reasons you don't have a business plan, and and they're valid reasons. I want to be very clear about that. I really appreciate the people who shared them with me. But what it stood out to me is that fundamentally, those reasons that they weren't developing a business plan were actually contributing to the potential chaos that they were dealing with in their business. And what I found is that when I've worked with clients over the years, a lot of business owners don't have business plans, and they think they can get along fine without them. After all, you only need a business plan to get a business loan, right? That's the usual myth that's out there. But the problem is, when you have no plan in place, you just have chaos. And this is what I see time and time again for business owners, where they don't have a good business plan in place. They don't have any particular focus in place in terms of what they're doing with their business. They're just kind of waiting for things to happen to them. And as a result, what ends up happening is they get overwhelmed and overloaded by everything, and they end up running their business by reaction. I don't recommend running your business by reaction, because when you run your business by reaction, what ends up happening is you miss things, because it's all in your head. And when your business plan is in your head, and everyone has a business plan. I mean, even the people who say they don't have a business plan, they have a business plan of some type. But when it's in your head, it just ends up being one of those things that causes you to have your business run by reaction. So we don't really want that. So I want to read aloud a couple of things that I saw, or a couple of the responses that I got. So one person, Sophie, said, to be honest, I've been in business for myself since 2000, and although I've had business plans from time to time, I've never found them useful. That said, I do have systems in place in my business and some automations which work really well indeed. I would have to second Shauna in the sense that my knowledge and awareness is constantly evolving, and if I make a plan today, it's obsolete within a week or so, because I don't know now what I will know then. I've never managed to achieve business goals either for that reason, so I don't like to be locked into today's level of ignorance. A plan is such a static concept, and I'm not really a business person per se. More of a therapist empath who happens to work for herself. I lack a fundamental understanding and embodiment of the financial area, but I make do with what I have. Okay, fair enough. So what I want to say to that, first of all, is that no matter what business you're in, you are a business person. You are a business owner. One of the traps that I see business owners make is that they go in and they're like, well, I'm a coach, or I'm a writer, or whatever else, but they don't identify with the business owner identity. And they don't want to, because the business owner identity sounds kind of boring and static, right? But far from it. The business owner identity is one of the most crucial pieces of your business. And if you don't have an identity in place around owning your business, that can really sabotage your efforts to grow your business by design, because instead you're running it by reaction. I know that, I mean, I think Sophie made some very valid points here. She said, that she has systems in place. Good for you, Sophie. That's great. And she has some automations which work really well indeed. And that's great. I mean, those are essential parts of how you run your business, and you need those in place. But then she mentions, that the plan is such a static concept. And this is where I'm going to disagree with you, Sophie. I don't see the business plan being a static concept. I think that when it's done right, a business plan is something that evolves with the business. And a lot of times the reason why people treat it as a static concept is because they write it once and then they throw it in their desk and they never see it again. It's just gone. It's disappeared. Well, you know, when something disappears like that, then of course it doesn't have any relevance. And that's the problem I find is a lot of people, they write a business plan once and they think they never have to look at it again. Well, I wrote the business plan. It's done. It's just an item on their to-do list. But that's not what a business plan is. A business plan is an organic description of your business that's meant to evolve over time. And when we work on our business plans, we actually want to revisit those plans and update them. You know, we want to make sure that we're updating them. Now, this doesn't mean you have to update them every week. And I understand, like Sophie validly mentions, you know, in one sense, her thing is like, hey, things are constantly evolving. If I write down a plan and then something changes a week later, well, then what do? That plan's outdated. And my response to that is this. A plan is outdated the moment you put it into action and execute it. Because, of course, you've started to do something. Things are going to change. Whether things are going to change simply because you're executing the plan, let alone anything that might come your way. But the beauty of a business plan is that it provides a strategic guidance for what you're seeking to do. And at the same time, it doesn't lock you in. I revise my own business plan every 90 days to kind of give you some context. Every 90 days, I sit down and I take a look at where I am with my business and what I need to be working on. And do I get everything done in the business plan in between? No. There are things that don't happen because other things come up. Things change. But what the business plan does is it provides me that level of focus and guidance and awareness about what I need to be working on at the time that I put it together. And it helps me to prepare and plan for that. And it helps me to make sure that I'm actually going to follow through on getting those things done. And what I find a lot of times is the business owners have the best of intentions. They go and they do something, but they don't follow through with it. And so things just kind of get run by reaction. We're waiting for things to happen to us. Now, another person, Shauna, also wrote, and she said, you know, I've never made a formal plan, and partly that's because I could never have predicted how things would go. Again, that lack of prediction. I never could have told you 10 years ago that it was the art that would make money, but only after I had books out and all other sorts of stuff out. I have very intentionally gone back and forth. Hold on for one second, folks. Okay, folks, sorry about that. See what happens when you plan for the best and then prepare for the worst sometimes. Things just happen. In this case, the phone ringing while I'm doing this. It's like, oh, okay, I really don't want that in the background. Anyway, we're back. Okay. So anyway, she's saying, I never could have told you 10 years ago that it was the art that would make money, but only after I'd gotten books out and all sorts of other stuff out. I've very intentionally gone back and forth at focusing on various interests, which has made sense and mostly worked well for me. Now, it definitely feels like it's time to focus more on writing and more on vending at sci-fi fantasy events and do a little less pagan events, which is where I was hoping to get to. It just wasn't quite clear on the winding road that it was going to take to get here. I feel like in the next year or so, I'll have enough information for a solid plan as I test various things out. So much of what I've done is trial and error because there's so much else that I couldn't really plan on. And again, I get it. There are things you can't plan on. Stuff is going to happen. A plan, but here's the thing. When you try to treat a plan as a net that's going to anticipate every single thing, it's not going to happen. That's not why you put a business plan together. What I would suggest to Shauna is that it's better to get started right now, because you never know when you're going to have enough information. What is enough information really look like? There's no way to know that. The only way you can know that is when you actually go out there, is when you actually start to put your business plan together and start executing it. So what I see a lot of times is that business owners wait and wait and wait. And basically what they're doing is they're waiting for something to happen in order for them to work on that business plan, or they're waiting for the next thing to happen. And when you're waiting, you're reacting. You're waiting for something else to happen. And so you're running your business on reaction, and consequently you're not in control of where you want to go. Now, what a business plan does It doesn't necessarily put you in complete control. I want to be very clear about that. But what a business plan does is it allows you to start proactively planning for what you want to accomplish. And again, I'm not going to say that people that don't have plans don't have some proactive awareness. Obviously they do. But I think that when you have a written business plan, what you've done is you've formalized the work that you're doing, and you've taken the thoughts that are in your head and you've put them on paper, and it gives you an objective record to look at. One of the things I like to do is actually go back and look at the business plans that I've put together before and look at what's changed. What shifted priority? Why? Things like that. Because it helps me to also understand how stuff came in and I had to respond to it. Putting a business plan together doesn't remove the fact that you're going to have to react. But here's what the business plan does is it helps you to develop a proactive approach, a proactive response to new information and events that come your way. And when you don't have that proactive response in place, then you are reacting. And when you're reacting, you're basically in crisis mode. And this is what I see happen for a lot of business owners. They get into crisis mode. They're constantly putting out fires because new stuff comes along and they're like, well, I don't have time to put together a plan, or that plan isn't going to predict everything, or it's such a static thing, it's just not going to do what I need it to do. Folks, a plan isn't going to help you anticipate every single thing, but what it will help you do is put together the appropriate responses and help you decide what actually has priority. Because sometimes when we're reacting to something that comes our way, we think it has high priority, but it really doesn't. And then we look back on hindsight and we're like, yeah, I really didn't have a lot of priority. If you had a plan in place though, you could take a look at that thing coming your way and you could evaluate it in relationship to your plan and say, okay, here's what I've written down that has high priority. And here's this other thing coming this way. Does this thing have as much priority or more than the things that I'm already focusing on? And that helps you make that decision. So that instead of just reacting to it and focusing on it because it just came your way, you're actually making an informed, aware choice. So that if you do pivot, you're pivoting from a place of awareness, and at the same time, you're not necessarily just abandoning the things that you've planned for. That's the other thing. A lot of times business owners will plan for some stuff that's really important and needed, and something comes their way and they got to pivot, but it doesn't mean they have to give that away. But if it's only in your head, you will forget about it. And then afterwards, something else will come along that'll remind you of it, and then you have to pivot back and you're like in crisis mode. And that's no fun. Here's a tough question that I want all of you who are watching this to ask yourself. Does running my business and dealing with things come up, does it feel like chaos, or does it feel like there's order? And if it feels like chaos, I'm going to tell you that is not a good way to be running your business. If you feel like you have a sense of order to it, I'm going to guess that you probably have a plan in place. Now, here's the other thing that stops people. A lot of times people think it'll take a lot of time to put together a business plan. And I want to reassure you, it only takes a few hours at most. I mean, it doesn't even necessarily take that, especially once you have a written business plan and you're updating it regularly, and you're updating it every 90 days. It doesn't take a lot of time at all. It's very easy to update and keep yourself focused. So it doesn't take a lot of time. The initial work does. I mean, I'm not going to lie to you. Sitting down, and if you've never written a business plan before, it takes some time. Of course, I can help you with that. In fact, one of the things you may want to check out in the description is the Grow Your Business by Design workbook, which I have in there. Oh, and incidentally, if you're watching this video and you're not part of the Eccentric Entrepreneurs group, I'm just going to share a link here, and you can feel free to join that as well. Please do join us because we're here to help you and be a resource. But I do have the Grow Your Business by Design workbook, which actually walks you through how to create a business plan and shows you, it gives you an idea as to what you need to be thinking about. We look at the different categories of business and we explore what you need to be thinking about in order to develop your business plan. So just keep that in mind, because that can be a very helpful resource. You know, the thing that I want you to understand is that when you have a business plan in place, you're no longer running your business from reaction. You're no longer being disorganized. You're no longer waiting for things to happen to you. Instead, you're proactively designing your business. And again, I get it. A lot of people tell me they don't have time to put together a business plan. And the reason why is because they're already feeling overwhelmed by running their business. So they're thinking, man, if I take a few minutes to just figure this out, it's just going to overwhelm me. And that is the wrong way to think about a business plan. A business plan grounds you. It allows you to take a deep breath and take a look at where you are and start grounding yourself in that, and then saying, okay, where do I want to go from here? What path do I want to walk on? So that instead of wandering the wilderness, hacking your way through, trying to find that path, you've already got a path. And, you know, if something comes your way and says, hey, you really need to go down branch Y instead of branch Z, your plan says, okay, we can do that. We can accommodate that. But don't forget branch Z. We can come back to that too. And so I would just tell any of you that if you don't have a business plan right now, do yourself a favor and go out there and get that business plan put together. It doesn't take a lot of time. And you have a resource with the Grow Your Business by Design workbook, which is designed to help you start working on your business plan. It's 17 pages. And don't worry, it's not, there's not work on every single page. In fact, it actually does not take a lot of time to go through. But the questions in there are designed to help you start thinking about your business from a strategic place of awareness instead of from a tactical place of awareness. And the mistake I see is so many business owners get focused on the tactics. You know, what do I need to respond to today? Instead of, where do I want to take my business? Where do I want it to be 90 days from now, half a year from now, a year from now, 2 years, 3 years, etc.? Don't get me wrong, you know, at a certain point, a plan can only take you so far. But what the plan does is it sets up the foundation to push you even further ahead. And when you don't have a plan in place, you're running your business by reaction, and you're doing yourself and your business a disservice because you don't have the resources in place to help you move your business along in a way that actually is going to be proactive and conscious and thoughtful. And I don't want to see that happen to you, because I've seen so many business owners over the years that I've worked with. I've seen so many business owners just shift from a place of despair and being overwhelmed and chaotic to a place of informed awareness, proactive design, and happiness because things are starting to actually make sense in a way that they weren't before. So if you don't have a business plan, I want you to really look at those excuses that you have for why you don't have it. I can't predict everything that's going to happen. It's too static, etc. Look, I get it. But those are what ifs. And the thing is your business plan isn't meant to be a static plan. It's not meant to be something you work on once. And that's the problem really that you have. That's a myth right there. A lot of people think a business plan was something that they should just work on once and that's it. And that's not the way a business plan works. A good business plan evolves along with the organization that it describes. And it helps the organization evolve. And that's what I want for you. I want to help you evolve your business in a strategic, focused manner. Because that's how you grow it, by design, instead of running it by reaction. And it's how you set it up so that your business actually does consistently grow, instead of just inching along and not really getting anywhere. Okay? So look, if you have any questions, feel free to share those and join us in the Eccentric Entrepreneurs group, where we're going to continue this conversation and talk further about business plans. All right, thank you for watching and take care. Have a great day.